My name is Frank Barrios, and I'm here to welcome you to another story of the Arizona Barrios story. And today I'm here to talk about Calderon's Ballroom. Calderon Ballroom was in the 1950s through the 60s was the place to be. It was famous not only in Phoenix but all over Arizona and even the Southwest. It was a major Mexican-American building, dance hall, ballroom, but also an entertainment center. Many people would come and make presentations, singers, and that sort of thing. The location of the Calderon Ballroom was at 1610 East Buckeye Road. And it was on the north side of the road. It was in the Golden Gate Barrio. It was a stone's throw from Sacred Heart Catholic Church, which also had a grammar school. Some might say a school and a Catholic church by a ballroom, but it worked very well because Father Braun, Father Braun is the priest who built the church, and he would, weddings, quinceañeras, baptisms, and if there were any celebrations after that, they would just walk a short distance to Calderon and have a dinner there or whatever. It was, I think, a little bit about Leonard Calderon. He was born in Ray, Arizona in 1913. He was one of 9 kids. And of course, Ray Sonora was called, no longer exists. There was a lot of copper underneath the town, and I guess the mining companies decided to, the town was less important than the copper underneath. Now there's just a big hole there. But many of his siblings, brothers, sisters, ended up moving into the Phoenix area, as did Calderon. In fact, there was a place called Calderon Brothers, had a repair shop for cars. And I don't think Leonard may have been a part of that, but in all truthfulness, that wasn't his thing. So he then started Leonard Calderon's Ballroom. And a little bit about Leonard, he was married twice. He had children with his first wife and children with his second wife. And the kids were all part of the Calderon Ballroom enterprise. And in fact, in later years when his son Nano Calderon, who was the son of his first marriage, decided with Leonard's permission, he added an extension to Calderon's, and it was called Nanos. And so you had the Calderon Ballroom, and then later Nano added an extension called Nanos Calderon. Just a little sidestep, Nano is still alive. He lives in Tucson, Arizona. He's a Protestant minister, going from running a ballroom to ministering. And but again, life has its changes. Let's see. The other thing, again, I mentioned that between the 50s and the 60s is when they were at their maximum. And it should be noted that Calderon's wasn't just famous in the Phoenix area, but all of Arizona and even outside. He would bring musicians from all over the United States to perform there at Calderon's. And it would need to be said that Calderon was very active. He was involved in all kinds of things. During that time period, you'd see him on TV. You would see him, he would have special recognition awards inside Calderon's there's pictures of him with many elderly, with the young, on TV. And he was also a board member of the Arizona Chamber, the Mexican Chamber of Commerce. Today it's called the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. he was very well respected and very well known everywhere. And if just a taste of the kinds of things that you could find in Calderon, you had ballroom dancing with people like Pete Bugarin and Malicota, and Chevo, there was Chapito Chavarria also was in there, but it would go anywhere from the ballroom dances type things to the Tex-Mexicans like Little Joe and the Latineers were also would perform there. And I found that he even brought in a few from Mexico, stars that would sing and perform. But I think one of the things that's very interesting that I did some interviews many years ago and was his connection to the black community. In the 50s and 60s, Phoenix was very segregated. And if you were a black performer, most of the places in Phoenix wouldn't allow you to perform. So, but Calderon did. And he would get people, this was early in their careers, but he would get people like Ray Charles, Fats Domino, Tina Turner. And when I interviewed one of his son-in-law many years ago, he was smiling. He said, "You know, we got Fats Domino to perform at Calderon's for $400 a night." And I think that's changed in a few years after that. But the black community would come to Calderon's to listen to these black performers, as would others. And so Leonard was truly a community leader, I think is fair to say. And Calderon, he gave jobs to all his kids, both from first and second marriage, and very, very well known throughout the Southwest. And performers, I actually had a chance to talk to Little Joe not too long ago, and he mentioned Calderon's and said he had fond memories of the times that he performed at Calderon's. Now we go to the last of the stories of Calderon, and this is in the area of the legend. And you've all heard, I'm sure, La Llorona, the ghost that was in southern Arizona, and you could hear her crying at night. Well, we didn't have a Llorona at Calderon's, but we did have a demon. And I was amazed when I actually talked to one guy that claimed he saw him. But maybe he had just one drink too many. But the story is this. When the ballroom was empty in the dark, people would peer in and they would see a very good-looking man dancing with a beautiful woman on the floor. And if you looked, he was very good-looking, but if you looked down below, he didn't have regular feet, he had hoof feet. And one lady even claimed he had a tail in the back of his, it was the devil dancing at Calderon. But that was a very, very strong legend. It's like La Llorona, anywhere in southern Arizona you hear about that. Well, the demon at Calderon's, people would actually claim they saw this guy with the hoof feet. And, but again, I'm sure many people hearing this presentation their hands will go up in the air about the legend of the demon at Calderon's. Calderon's closed in 1984. And Leonard Calderon died in 2004. And today, it's kind of interesting to look back because Leonard was born in Ray, Arizona, not far from Superior, no longer exists. And if you go looking for Calderon's, it no longer exists either. What the city of Phoenix did is they bought out the Golden Gate Barrio. And Calderon's ballroom was in the Golden Gate Barrio. They tore everything down except one thing, the Catholic Church, which is Sacred Heart, which was built by Father Albert Braun, is the only thing left. And you go out into that area where Calderon's was, and you see nothing but vacant lot, but there, all alone, is Sacred Heart Catholic Church, built by Father Albert Braun. And it's just, again, it's hard for us to look back and think about what Calderon meant to the people of that day. I think if the closest thing to the Anglo community to a Calderon's would be maybe Mr. Lucky's, but Calderon's was different. It was Mexicans, even though it was in the Golden Gate barrio, Mexicans from all over Phoenix, all over Arizona, even other states would come because of what they had heard about Calderon's ballroom. And he helped. He would take part, and he would have a float every year on Calderon's. He would show up on KPHO many times with Hector Ledesma and some other famous people in that period. Again, it's now legend. Calderon is gone, but I can tell you, many people still alive have great memories about Calderon's ballroom and the wonderful experience they had there. In closing, just to all those that remember their fond days at Calderon, and it was a wonderful experience, a wonderful man, Leonard Calderon, who brought entertainment to the Mexican community of Phoenix and Arizona.
Hace tiempo que yo guardo un sentimiento